Leaders are everywhere, on the TV, in the papers, in our schools and universities. But the question remains, what actually is one? In this documentary, I've sat down with leaders from across our state, our country, and the world to discuss what they think leadership really is.
Oh, you're very welcome, Jake. I'm looking forward to your questions.
This with your assignment, Jake.
Hello, Jake Pryor. This is Emma Grave in Torrens Pipe House.
So what do I think about leadership? For me, a good leader is someone who can rally a group around. They're someone that knows how to work with people, but are also able to inspire. Now, who have I spoken to? I've conducted interviews with individuals from politics, business, sport and education, as well as delving back into some of the letters I've received from leaders in the past. I spoke with the Premier of South Australia, Peter Malinauskas, Senator Pauline Hanson, Cricket SA CEO Charlie Hodgson, former Principal and Australian and UK Educational Lead Dr John H. Newton, Scotch College Deputy Principal Emma Grave, and State Member for Waite, Catherine Hutchison. So what led all these people to their positions today? Who inspired them? Was it their parents, their friends or their teachers? Well, I'm going to find out.
I think for me, leadership was all around me growing up. I grew up in a family that was heavily involved in musical theatre in the local community, and I grew up sort of on the weekends and at night times at rehearsals and productions, and it was always very busy and it was always highly engaged in the community. And I think if I had to drill down even more, it was probably my mum in particular that I saw what leadership looked like up close. She was a great performer, a great leader. She was a director, a producer. She was always out and about, front of house, doing the thing, welcoming. But what I actually saw was the hard work behind the scenes. My mum was always on the phone talking to people. And I think, you know, sometimes leadership is not pretty, it's not easy, and it can be hard. And so I saw her front of house doing the whole bells and whistles leadership, but then I also saw just the sheer hard work behind the scenes that was dealing with people, you know. And I think what I learnt from her more than anything else is the best thing you can ever do is pick up the phone and talk to people. That is how you move a problem forward.
Well, the person who was Prime Minister when I sort of started to develop a bit of consciousness in current affairs was Bob Hawke. I really liked him, and the more I've learned about him ever since, I've liked him more and more, just in terms of his appetite to try and find consensus where it can be found, but at the same time not compromise conviction. The other person as a young person growing up that I really did inspire me was Nelson Mandela. For a person of his story and the hardship and the persecution that he experienced to then become a leader of global significance with a lot of hope and aspiration of bringing people together was something that I thought was quite an extraordinary expression of humanity at its best. So that would be the person I'd point to as someone who I thought was quite inspirational. Mum is probably the most honest person I know. Like, just honest as the day's long. So determined to make sure that she's always doing the right thing. If I was infallible as her in that regard, that would be a good thing. But I don't know if that would be possible, to be honest. My dad has this unbelievable ability to listen to others, and he's very good at it. He loves hearing other people's stories. He loves getting them to talk about their experiences, and he's very objective. Almost anyone else I know, he can try and see the lens of other people's perspectives, look and understand where they're coming from.
At school, and I had a lot of poor teachers at school. Showed me what leadership wasn't, and all the way up to the High Master. So I'll give you an example of this. I went to a very academic grammar school in Manchester, and I went to Oxford University because it was an Oxbridge machine. There was no pastoral care, there was no concern about me as an individual, and I struggled in the maths, physics and chemistry area. I boomed in the languages area, which is my subject, and that's where I found great leaders too. But I saw that there was a lot of indifference, and I rose to be the vice captain of a 1,500 student school, and I had one conversation with the High Master.
Oh,
one,
wow.
And it went like this: "Have you got the reading for assembly?" "Yes, sir." "Okay, speak up." And that was the only conversation I had with the High Master. So that was poor leadership. I was never going to be like that. You know what I'm like, Jake. I shake every hand because my High Master was the opposite. He couldn't care less about me. So I got inspiration on both sides. I learnt what leadership was, and I learnt what leadership wasn't.
I came here 3 years ago. Before that, I was working at the Oval with a chief exec who I do speak to still regularly, who's incredibly good at making you feel better about yourself when you've had a conversation with them. Got you to do stuff yourself, but they did it in such a way that you felt supported. It's not that they're not doing stuff for you, so you feel like you're achieving stuff and learning and growing with their support.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question because different people can show different types of leadership and you look to them for different things. But I do remember my principal, which is a strange thing to sort of think is someone who inspires you. Her name was Helen Reid, and she was an incredibly strong woman. She could command the room when she would walk into it at assembly, and she was one of the first women to ever be a principal as well, so she really was a trailblazer in that space. And I just remember how strong she was, and I thought I really want to have that that characteristic as I got older, where people really listened and people didn't just continue with what they were doing when you were speaking. And she carried that out throughout the whole school, and so you would see her in the yard. She was always approachable, but she also always was really responsible in her actions, and also helped guide a lot of young women on their journey to become whatever they wanted to be. But she was very strong on you be what you want to be, and make sure you put in the hard work and the hard effort. So she was definitely a leader in my younger years, and someone I still look up to today, and what she sort of what she instilled in me, and making sure that I always put my best foot forward.
Before leaders lead others, they follow examples, sometimes in unexpected places.
I kind of stepped into leadership very quickly when I finished university and went to Ballarat. I was at a school called Ballarat in Clarendon, where I was head of theatre arts and also the head of house. But I think it's probably other people that saw things in me that started to say, I think you should be a deputy. In fact, I think you should be a principal one day. And I was like, my goodness, I just love my current role. Sometimes it takes someone else to say to you, I see something in you that could be really transferable, and you should be growing your skills. It took a push from a dear friend who said, Emma, you absolutely have to start applying for deputy principal's roles. You are not learning anything anymore.
Well, the first real taste of leadership I had was at school. I was involved in different school leadership efforts, including being school captain or school leader at my school, up the road from you at Mercedes. And that was a challenging, I got challenged in that role in a few ways, and that I learned from, but also enjoyed. At that point, I had an opportunity to continue to represent retail workers in the trade union movement, and I sort of take the opportunity to do that full time, and I did it, and I'm so glad I did, because I learned a lot from it. And then eventually I led that organisation, and I did enjoy the opportunity to have an impact on people's lives, which I really found quite rewarding and enjoyable. So that lent itself to a role to expand as an opportunity to have an impact, and that lent to politics.
Because the chief exec that I talked about was quite a force of nature. You didn't feel like you were ever really making decisions that you really had to stand by yourself, because he was there and would be guiding. So I suppose in some ways it was only really coming, well, he left actually, and I took over for 6 months, and then I came here. So suddenly when you get put in the chief exec's chair, you're making decisions the entire time. Because it's amazing how even small decisions people want validation on or feedback on. So the biggest change, I think, when I went from being a director, which is the equivalent of a GM here, I suppose, to a chief exec, is just the multitude of decisions that you have to make on basically everything.
That would have been through sports, I think, largely, because I was a year young for the first team I played for, and we won the cup and we won the league. We did the double, and that was great. And the year after that, we won. I was captain, and we won the league, and that was a great introduction for me. It was a safe environment, a great backing from a great coach, whom I adored.
Leadership often begins with a simple moment, a decision, an opportunity, or a call to action. So one may ask, what makes a good leader?
I think it's being responsible for your actions and also being prepared to stand up for what you believe in. Regardless of people, you don't go out there to think that you're going to please everyone, because you can't. Having leadership is being true to yourself, true to the people, and standing up for your convictions and what you truly believe in.
In his letter to me, former leader of the Australian Greens and Senator for Tasmania, Bob Brown, said that for him, leadership means explaining a good idea to people and then having them join in making that idea possible. He said a good leader can be anyone promoting a good idea. However, the best leaders know that without everyone else's involvement, they would be useless. They share information, keep their cool in a crisis, and always celebrate the good achievements of others.
I think a good leader is somebody that can listen to other people's issues and try and resolve them, while also being a very approachable person, and I guess doing what's not only right for you but doing what's right for others and trying to set a good example.
I think a good leader is someone that really knows who they are and is not afraid to be who they are. We spend a lot of time as we grow up pretending or trying to be like someone else, looking up to people or modelling ourselves on that thing, or trying to be aspirational around being exactly like that person. You know, there's no benefit to being like someone else. The best thing you can ever do as a leader is be the best version of yourself.
Labor Minister Tanya Plibersek said that good leaders award their honour carefully. They tell the truth, don't take shortcuts, read the newspapers and listen to and watch the news. She said that good leaders listen more than they talk. They try and see things from others' points of view and learn something new every day.
I think a leader is someone who encourages people and puts a lot of effort into others and what they do.
I think a leader is being kind and courageous and confident.
I think a leader helps people and rises people's standards, I think.
And the best leaders, okay, the servant stuff is there. No matter what circumstance, you've got to be a servant. You're there to protect. But, I'll get a little sorry about that in a second. But the circumstances dictate how you behave. If you and are, if you're two lifeguards and someone falls in the swimming pool and starts flashing around, you don't say to the guy to the other side, do you want to go in? Is it my turn? Is it your turn? You get in there, you do something, yeah?
What I think makes a good leader is someone that sticks to their core values and they are themselves in front of everyone, and they really show themselves, and they really show their true colours in front of everyone, and they always take it upon themselves to lead people in the right direction, always a helping hand, and they also have a good energy all the time, good vibe about them, and they're always there for you whenever you need them.
I think as a leader, it's amazing how everyone takes their energy off of you. So sometimes you have to just pretend you're confident when you're not confident, or you've got to kind of slightly hide your emotions at times, because people are always looking to you for what do we do. So you have to sometimes look calm when things are going really badly.
Former Australian Prime Minister Paul Keating said in his letter to me that good leaders have imagination and courage as hallmarks. He said that his view of leadership is of doing what is right, not what is popular.
I think someone who is respectful and can openly listen and take in new ideas makes a really good leader, and someone who's just a nice person, easy to approach, and displays good values for younger people, and is a good aspiring person.
I think someone who's inclusive, makes sure that everyone's heard and everyone can put their ideas out there and make sure they include everyone.
I think there are so many qualities that make up a good leader. It's hard to think of just one that isolates all the others, but I think you do want to see consideredness, but not at the expense of conviction, which means what you really need to see is a balance between the two. I think it's necessary you take into account other people's perspectives. I think you want to be considerate towards each of those perspectives, but eventually you're going to make a decision, right? And that's where conviction is important. So, because there's no point in having political authority unless you're not making decisions.
Former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Dame Jacinda Ardern, said that a good leader remembers who they are there to serve. She said it can be easy to get caught up in the environment of leadership, but remembering why you're there in the first place, what you believe in, and who you're trying to make life better for is really important.
I think you should never forget who put you in your role. I think you should never forget why you wanted to be in the role in the first place. The minute you forget those things or where you came from, then you lose sight of why you wanted to step up in the first place.
Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, said that the best leaders are interested, curious and kind, and passionate. He said they're lifelong learners and listeners who want to serve their local communities to the best of their ability. He said that good leaders understand that we are all stronger together. The most important role of a leader is to bring people together to build a better future for all. He encourages upcoming leaders to read widely, think independently, and find our passions. Learn everything you can about the society around you and make up your own mind about the issues that interest you.
Good leaders are already thinking. It doesn't just happen to you. Although there's the great Shakespeare phrase, isn't there, that some have greatness, some are born great, some become great, and some have greatness thrust upon them. There are three kind of ways in which you become a leader. For those of us who become leaders, you need to be a thinker. You need to be an observer. You need to analyze what you do and don't like, and make it your own. You can't become a leader by accident, because you'll be caught out. You can't become a leader for the wrong reasons, because you want the money or the name on the door or something. You've got to know that you're there because for the right reasons, that your integrity is intact, and that whatever you're doing out of principle and out of a wish, most importantly, your wish to serve.
I think being humble yet strong makes a very good leader.
I believe someone who takes responsibility and accountability for their actions.
Former First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, said that she believes that great leaders have integrity, honesty and humility. She said they must have clear focus and provide clear direction to successfully reach desirable outcomes, but always be ready to listen to ideas and must support people to reach their goals. She said they should be objective, fair, reasonable, calm and compassionate in their dealings with people. She noted that as a leader, you have to make difficult decisions and ultimately take responsibility for those decisions, and commented that giving absolutely everything of yourself to the job is the only successful way to do it.
I don't know what moves politicians these days, but as I keep saying, it is not rocket science. Be yourself and let people know that you like them and that you want to do things for their country. And if you act like that, you'll be accepted and liked and be able to do your job. I think there's far too much of a tendency, Annabelle, to try and make it more complicated than it is.
One of my very good friends runs leadership in the British Army, and he talks about service leadership the whole time. And he talks about what does this person need from me in the next 2 minutes to make sure their day's better than it would otherwise have been. When he walks out of the house, what does his wife need before he leaves home to make sure she has a great day? When he's walking into the office, what's the first thing he's going to do? How's he going to appear to people? How does he get the best out of people?
People respect honesty and truth, and especially being a member of Parliament, I'm representing the Australian people, so they want me to represent them with the truth and honesty, not going on what the polls say or anything else. And I think that's important to people: integrity and honesty and trust.
Leadership isn't all easy. Every single leader faces challenges. And from challenges come lessons.
There is no benefit to not asking for help. There is no one person that knows how to do everything. That person doesn't exist. So don't fake it, don't pretend, you'll end up in a pickle, If you genuinely don't know something, if you genuinely are struggling, then you need to ask for help. And being kind and honest about that means that there's a genuine authenticity about a high-performing team.
I always used to say to the school captains, the people who'd reached the top of the tree as students in a school, the first meeting I had with them, I said, you will make mistakes. Don't worry about it. Learn from them. The people that don't learn from their mistakes don't get anywhere.
You're going to make mistakes. But if you don't do things because you think you might make a mistake, by definition, we'll be back in the Stone Age.
You can't fix everything, and you would love to be able to. If anyone that comes to you, you'd like to be able to solve their issue or help them with an idea that they've got, but in terms of what you can achieve financially, or whether or not that even fits in with community, is something that you have to constantly be thinking about.
The final thing I asked our leaders was, what advice would you have for young people aiming to pursue leadership today?
Never give up. Believe in yourself. Keep fighting. Don't let anyone pull you down. The only person who pull you down is yourself.
There's a great story someone told me about captains and army leaders who come out of Sandhurst. They get their qualification, they've been through officer training, a huge parade in front of the Queen or the Queen's representative, or the King now as we have. You're out, you've graduated, you passed out. And they go on their first expedition with their team of non-commissioned officers who are not officers, but they're very senior, very experienced non-officers, and the men. And they go up through this mountain range in Wales as leader of their first expedition. And after about 14 hours, the experienced guys know it's gone wrong. They've gone in the wrong direction. They're lost. They utterly expect it to happen. And then they wait. And if the leader says, we're going to keep going, I think I'm right, they think to themselves, he's going to be a loser. The one that says, fellas, I've messed up here, I need your help, you're the one we want.
I think the best way to do it is just to chuck yourself into it in whatever possible, there are plenty of opportunities for it. It might be volunteering at your local Greek pub, or, doing the barbecue at the weekends.
Leadership should be a service. It is not about you, the person, but it's about the impact you're making around you. So when you're going for leadership roles, whether you're wanting to be the next CEO of the Commonwealth Bank or whether you're going for the, house captain in Year 9, if you can think through the lens of how am I going to benefit personally, that's one stream, but more than that, how can I then contribute to this environment to make it better than it was yesterday?
And there are definitely times in leadership where I've thought, a nice number 2 job, which is basically what I had at the Oval in London, was pretty nice. Like, it came with a lot less stress. So it's not a given, I think, that everyone wants to necessarily aspire to it, because there are definitely benefits from not being in charge. Especially when things are going, the way you don't want them to go, and you can never really switch off. But it's very rewarding if you can find the right place to do it. So I think I would just say, just take up any opportunity you can. Always seek out opportunities, but remember, it's not about you.
You have a right to have an opinion, you have a right to have a say, and you have the right to ask for a please explain if it's not doesn't suit you. Don't think that everyone knows more than what you do. Ask the questions and always have an opinion.
Yeah, so I think my advice to people who are thinking about pursuing a position in leadership is to think that you can do it. Sometimes we think, that person is a born leader, or that person, they're going to go far. But sometimes it's those quiet people that stop and they listen and they take the time to understand what's going on. They talk to their friends about things. They are the people that we want as leaders. And what you'll learn and the opportunities that come your way are far more exciting than if you choose not to do it.
I remember someone once saying to me, the best thing you can ever do and to show leadership is to turn up. And I remember thinking that just sounds incredibly simple. But actually, I've come to learn that the world operates best and the world is most flourishing when people just turn up. When you're not waiting for an invitation, people just turn up and roll their sleeves up and say, what can I do? How can I help?
Stand by your convictions, ask the questions. If you don't know, say, look, I don't know. And always aspire to do the best that you can, be honest, and people will respect you for it.
Throughout the making of this documentary, it has become clear to me that there are thousands upon thousands of definitions of leadership. Some people think it requires conviction, others courage or kindness. But amongst this array of conflicting arguments, one fact remains. Leaders are there not because they were destined to be, but simply because they had the courage and confidence to put their hand up in the first place.